Hey, so this is Sean Glass with Ion Cinema. I'm here with Zoe Kazan. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Right, exactly. Totally your pleasure, and that's it, right? So you're here for Meek's Cutoff, even though you
Yes.
have like 5 other movies going on right now.
No, I don't. Definitely don't. I only have Meek's Cutoff.
Right, right. So tell us about your experience working with Kelly Reichardt.
I've been a huge fan of Kelly's for a long time. It's funny. Someone was saying to me like recently, like um, that movies like Juno are kind of like sold to like the mass public as like an art
Sure.
film, but like Kelly is like truly like an artist. Like
I
her
agree.
films are like almost like visual art more than they're like the perfect apotheosis of what an art film is. And like the people that she looks to, like Bresson and Ozu and stuff, are like people that I really admire as well. And
Transcendentalism, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I super love John Raymond's work, both his film work and his prose. I think he's incredible. And basically, Kelly saw me in Exploding Girl that I did. That was at the Tribeca Film Festival, and she was like, "Do you want to come do this movie?" And I just like leapt at the chance to work with her. And Kelly's like really. I was just saying before you turned on the camera that like the movie is not really about the acting. Like it's so much about the rigor of her filmmaking, and like you were saying, like the perspective of the camera, her perspective, like the film that she shot is very different from the film that John Raymond wrote.
Right.
And I think that because of that, she puts enormous trust in her actors. Like it's almost like she doesn't want to think about the acting, so she kind of I think she tries to cast exactly like what she wants the film to look like and feel like, and then sort of leaves it alone.
So do you do a lot of like background character work then, or do you completely leave that alone? Or
I mean, in a way, I think like what I mean is that I think she's like sort of casting the person for the part, like the dissonance or consonance of the person
Right.
and the part is like
their lives can be similar to the characters' lives. So you don't
no,
have to
just like the way that a person feels, like the way Shirley Henderson feels on screen, that kind of texture of her mixed with like the texture of the part that she was playing, I think is
Okay.
like that is the character. And
Shirley
then,
Henderson's face. She has such an expressive face.
Right, it's
and
just
I
like
think that was like her
yeah,
character
that's
right there.
exactly. Or like I think there's something in me that Kelly saw and was like, I want that for for Mrs. Gately. I'm not saying she doesn't direct it all on set,
I think
but
you have eyes. Shirley Henderson's mouth is what where all the affect of her performance come
Right,
in there.
exactly.
With you, it's your eyes. I think.
yeah, so it's a funny thing. It's like I think we didn't really know what to expect. We'd done a lot of like research and stuff, but you
You
get
did
on.
a boot camp, right?
Yeah, we did a boot camp, pioneer boot camp. We learned how to make fire without matches. That was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, if the apocalypse comes,
I was
you're
saying
fucking ready.
I was totally useless in a post-apocalyptic world, and now I'm not. Like I know how to make fire
There you go.
and like bake in the ground.
I tell my girlfriend that she's gonna go. She's gonna be done right
I
away.
know. Well, we can always prostitute ourselves. I'm
There
sure
you
there'll
go,
be lots of
yeah.
money for sex.
So you said that you think the film changed a lot from the script.
Yeah.
What was it? I mean, talk about that a little bit. Was that in performance, or was that in the camera, or what?
I think it's mostly in the camera, frankly. It's like, there would be a scene where the men would be deciding something and the women would be listening.
And this camera would be with the women 50 yards
Well,
away.
right. But not in the script. In the script, it's the men talking and then like a tiny bit of the women listening.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that John Raymond's definitely like interested in women. Like he's not, I mean, look at Mildred Pierce. Like he's not interested in the plight of the woman, but Kelly is like super interested in the plight of the woman. So, I mean, she's a feminist. So I think that when her version of the movie is much more with the women than John Raymond's script was. And I think that was surprising to some of the men at first, like the first couple days, and she's like putting the camera like 100 yards away, and they're like,
Right.
are we never going to go any closer? And then, you know, when it became apparent that we weren't, then
It's
you
all
know,
Michelle's perspective. It's not coming from, if she is not there, if she doesn't see
right.
it. And I
Yeah.
realized that about halfway through the movie, that it's a movie, it's a first person perspective movie.
It's true.
In a very strange, different way that we're not used to. It's not point of view necessarily. It's not subjective camera work, kind of things
Right.
like that, but it's all
Right.
from the women.
That's true. I mean, I think that was Kelly's point of entry to the movie, and because of that, it's the audience's point of entry into this world.
Sure. Yeah, that was one of my questions for Kelly. What I want to know where she started with this movie. Was it that she wanted to do a western? Did she want to do a pioneer
What'd she say?
story? I'll find out in
Gotta
about
let me
an
know.
hour. Yeah. So yeah, I saw her at New York Film Festival, but I didn't get a chance to really ask her that. But yeah, I'm really interested to know what her priorities sort of with this film. I mean, maybe you could have some insight into that. What were her priorities with the rehearsal work, with like when she was telling you about this character, apart from the script?
Right.
What did she care about you conveying?
Honestly, I feel like that there was some sort of collaboration, just because the Gately's, I think, weren't as like the other two couples, I think, were like slightly more defined in terms of why they were doing this. Like, it was clear that Mr. Gately like was looking for gold, and then what happens to Mrs. Gately in terms of her sort of hysteria towards the end of the movie, like that was really clear, but who she was at the beginning was less clear. So she and I talked a little bit about it, and I had read, like, I'd just been interested in this time period before, so I had read some like
Cool.
journals and stuff, and part of something that was interesting
You
to
saw
me that
Johnny
was
Guitar, I'm
also
assuming?
what?
You saw Johnny Guitar, I'm assuming?
No,
You never saw Johnny Guitar?
No.
Oh my god, you have to see Johnny
I
Guitar.
don't know what that is.
Johnny Guitar is, oh wow. I mean, I might be completely wrong, but I assume that's the inspiration for everything that Kelly did on this movie. It's the only, Nicholas Ray did it, and Barbara Stanwyck, and it's the only Western where the real, like, badass hero, it's all the anti-hero things, but it's a woman.
Cool.
And,
I'm a
it's-
big Barbara Stanwyck fan. I've
Yeah,
got to see that.
You gotta check it out.
Yeah, obviously. No, I mean, like, I was actually, like, super interested in this actual historical
Right, okay.
period. Not, like, movies
See, I'm
about
the,
this historical
I'm the
period.
movie nerd who lives
Yeah,
in
exactly.
a dark room.
I get
like-
that. I totally get that. You want to compare skin color?
Yeah.
No, what was I saying? Oh, anyways, I'd been kind of interested in, like, the people that had to go, like, kind
The
of
Oregon Trail
unwillingly.
and all that.
Like, some of the women's journals are really funny because they're like,
Oh, right,
I-
you had diaries.
yeah,
of the
they're
real
like,
ones
I'm
on
never
set.
going home. I'm never going to see my mother again. Like, I cried today. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny because, like, there's some really tough girls, and then there are, like, some not so tough girls who are like,
Well, I think
this
we
sucks.
get that in the movie.
Totally.
Yeah.
So,
And sometimes it changes between characters.
Right.
Like,
so there were little things that we talked about, like her bird, for instance, I think came out of me and Kelly talking about, like, little ways that we can show, like, the frivolity of this girl, like,
Yeah.
who she was before. Like, there are tiny things in the clothes that, like, I talked to Vicky, our costume designer, about, like, you know, she's got, like, extra ruffles on her clothes, that there's some sense of her impracticality as a person. And,
Sure.
and it was really fun when we got to Pioneer Camp and we had, like, stacks of actual props. Like, Paul and I got to go in and be like, what would we have brought? And, like, we're definitely the least prepared of, like, you know, we tried to pick out things that were, like, a little stupider, like a really nice pot that's, like, too heavy, and things that are, like, I mean, not to, like, make fun of them, but they're just, like, not as well prepared. They're younger. They're, like, you
there's
know.
definitely a contrast with the two of you to the other couples, where
Right.
sort of they're doing it out of, like, they've tried out life for
Right.
a couple of years, and they're doing it for they have many more reasons to
Right.
be doing this. You guys are kind of like flipping a coin, I feel like.
Right.
And not necessarily like, oh,
No,
should we
totally.
do this or do that?
Like, there
but-
was a kind of young man go west
yeah,
thing.
it's like,
yeah.
oh, I'll be the kid out there, and
Right.
you know,
We'll make our fortune.
right.
You know,
This could
there's, like,
be
this moment
interesting, like-
where Meek's like, oh, the beaver all played out, and Paul's character is like, I told you we should have gone earlier.
All right, so this is switching from Meek's, about your career, kind of. You have an interesting arc dynamic to your roles, I think. I see you play the other, but you play different others. You play the blonde bombshell sometimes, and you're like the hot girl, and then in other movies, like you are, like Orson Welles, you are the other girl, the nice girl, the safe one, who
Right.
might not be as glamorous as the love
Right.
interest, but you know what? Like, she likes me, and so how does that kind of work for you?
Honestly, I don't. I kind of like think it's. I would love to say that there was like some organizational principle behind my choices, but most of the time I just take what I'm being offered or
Like your agent
what's
says, here's a
interesting
hot
to
blonde
me.
role, here's a nice girl.
Right, exactly. Like, and also part of it too is that, and maybe this is like to my detriment, but most of the time I'm much more interested in like who the director is
Sure.
and what the movie is going to be
I
like
don't think
than
that's
like
to your detriment. I mean,
right. I mean, I think some actors really think more about the role. Well, I do think about that, but like when Kelly came to me with this, like no matter what the role was going to be, I wanted to be part
Yeah.
of this movie. And similarly, like Richard Linklater, somebody I've like admired for so long, and he was like, "I have this part," and I was like, "I'll do it," obviously, you know.
I mean, I think Harry Dean Stanton had a better career than, I don't know, Matthew McConaughey is going to have.
yeah,
Thinking about
I love
working on the
Matthew
right projects.
McConaughey. I don't know. I just think, you know, yeah, I mean, like the people I really admire, like John Cazale and Bruce Dern, and you know, people like that,
Okay.
and it's not
Great.
like
I love that, yeah.
conventional, you know, careers. I'm not saying I wouldn't want some of the things that go with a conventional career. It's nice to be paid well, but from like an acting standpoint, I'd much rather make good movies than make
Well, you
like,
come from a good
super
pedigree,
flashy
you know?
movies. Yeah, I guess. Anyways, I
Do you work differently when you have those different kind of roles? Do you sort of cull from different life experience?
oh,
You know,
totally.
different craft work?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of stage work too, and with that, I've gotten to be like more picky just because there's more work, and
Sure.
you know, I feel like I don't. You never want to repeat yourself. You never want to do the same. I mean, I guess some people do, but I don't want to do the same thing twice.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to be always using some different part of yourself or approaching it in some new way. But most of the time, I mean, unless you're being asked to play like the ingenue part in a romantic comedy all the time, most of the time the text is going to dictate something
Yeah.
different, you know, just because of time period and who the person is and what their background is.
Right.
You know, I mean, me and Orson Welles in this movie are two totally different
Yeah.
worlds. Even though I would say, you know, they're both like within the movie world, they're both like small independent movies.
And then Bored to Death, you play a completely different
Completely
role
different part.
than any of those.
That was
Yeah.
so fun. I
Yeah,
love doing
it seemed
that.
like it was fun.
Yeah. I know. I just like go to work and flirt. So
Right.
fun.
That was really funny seeing you in there. 'Cause I didn't realize at first because you were just blonder than I've ever seen you
Right.
before, and it literally like took me a scene to realize like, oh wait, that's her. Like, that's funny.
That's funny.
But no, it was a good
I
role.
know, but that's great. I really like being
No, that's to your
unrecognizable.
credit.
It's
That's
so fun.
really cool. And that's very rare that someone has that kind of range.
Thank
that you
you.
could do different
That's
things.
really
Usually it's
nice.
like, oh, she can do that over and over and over again. But no, you have a portfolio in a matter of a couple of years where like
Thank
you've
you. That's
done
really
different
nice.
things. So expanding your portfolio, now you have your first screenplay. Is this, I don't know.
It's
probably
not my
the
first
that you've
screenplay.
written, but-
It's I've written like a few plays, and this is the second screenplay I've written. But it's my first to be made,
Right.
or hopefully we'll see what happens.
Well, I think it looks like it's being made, right?
Yeah, it looks like it looks like it is. I'm never gonna say it is until like it's actually in the
camera's-
can
yeah.
and like been distributed and like
Until
it's
it's
all
a wrap,
over.
yeah.
Yeah, but it does look like it's happening.
Was your family encouraging
Right.
of the writing or the acting or both? And now, how do you feel about that?
I'd say they never really like wanted me to do anything. They just like wanted me to be happy. They
That's nice.
they did like I'd say like writing is something that's really respected in our house, and they would like write down my stories before I knew how to write, and then you know really listen to my stories when I read them aloud to them or showed them to them, and I think that was probably more unusual than in most families.
That's cool.
And when I said I wanted to act, they were like less supportive. They think it's like,
Oh, really?
yeah, I mean, I think they think it's a harder life. Just because they've been
Sure.
successful as writers, I think they think of that as being like easier than acting. But
don't
they're
know.
very supportive. Like now that they see that I can do it, I guess they're
Yeah.
like much more on board than they were at first. You know, it's a funny thing because I never like really. I wanted to be a writer when I was little because I wanted to be like my parents, and then when I got a little older and I like learned about acting, then that's what I wanted to do. And since then, I never really thought of myself as a writer or like someone who was going to be a writer. But I started writing in college, and like people liked what I wrote, and then like it can be really boring to be an actor a lot of the time. You're like waiting for jobs and like waiting around at jobs, and like, you know, when you're doing a play, like you have all day free. So I started writing again just to like keep myself from going
I mean,
crazy.
it's the same thing. If you're a writer, you're doing a lot of work that nothing will ever come of.
Right.
It's like
Right,
10%
but like
of
for
your work
me,
gets,
it's like like because I never had any, I didn't care what happened with it. Like in a weird way, I was like totally free to just like have it be bad or like have it be different, or like that's where I feel like my like all of my kind of like training as a writer has been, is that there were like no stakes to it. Like I had another career, so I could
Right.
just like do it.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for doing
you.
this, and congrats on the film. And